my first take on it is that these are some field agents from outside of the state that have been brought in and are not familiar with the scene. So they've done the first thing that anyone would do if they're just arriving, is to go out and look at the scene as it sits today.
The one thing I didn't see them doing, I don't know if I missed it, but I don't think I did. They didn't do the requisite booty up. They didn't put the little booties on and, protect the integrity. And to me, that screams they got the evidence they need. They have done the exquisite task of trying not to contaminate the scene in any way. And now it's really the gumshoe work of trying to piece this together, almost like a profiler might, or as an investigator may walk the scene and think of clues that he or she might look for. But it's not about contaminating the scene anymore.
Oh, no, I would agree with you. They have been back to this scene repeatedly. They've gone back and they've seized cars that they processed. So there's been a lot of, and because the scene is so complicated, and there are so many levels to this investigation, I don't think there was a question of compromising anything by these new players on the scene by going in and examining the scene itself.
Let me ask you something, Phil. If this were your case, and you've done a few, right? What would be the first thing you would want to do? If you were one of those 5 guys tonight, where would you be walking? What would you be looking for?
Well, if I was one of those 5 guys, I'd be doing what it appears they are doing, which is to go to the scene, familiarize themselves with it, and then they can kind of associate some of the evidence that's been collected to the scene that they have now viewed.
I'm looking here, Phil. They're not taking notes. Like, I'm looking at they've got their jackets on, they've got their gloves on, they've got their hats on. They don't have notes. Nobody's sort of writing anything down as they might be inspired, right? When I look at stuff, I get inspired to ask certain questions. I write them down right away. They're just walking about. Now, I don't know what they're doing behind the pulled blinds, but they're moving pretty quickly about the cabin.
Well, they are. And what that would indicate to me is that they had a specific question about some aspects of that scene, and they went there to verify what they were asking about. And evidently, it was verified, and so they left, and there would really be no need to take notes if they were there for a specific purpose.
And they've got no evidence bags. They're not taking anything out. It's that looks real. That really looks like in the business what we call a go see. From what I gather from Nancy Liu, and I'm going to ask the control room just to check in with Nancy real quick because I let her go already. I think they were there for about a half hour, but I just want to confirm that they were there for about that amount of time. But does that sound about right? That's the time it would take. Yep, I just got confirmation. It's correct. They were there for about a half hour. Does that sound about right? Just to sort of confirm or check on something. They had a purpose. They knew what they were going to see.
Well, not knowing what they were there specifically to view, I would say that given the time frame that they saw what they wanted to see or what they needed to see, and that was accommodated within that 30 minutes, and they left. So I don't think it's a question of do we spend more time to make it appear that we're doing something. I think they went there, they used their time in an economic way, and saw what they needed to see, and then departed.
Let me ask you something before I let you go. 25% reduction in the number of bodies working this case. I know it happens. It is always, it's a gut punch when it happens, but life goes on and there's policing in that community that has to happen. They did an almost 100% blanketing of that case with their entire asset force and the Moscow police, but they buried it. They did it real quiet, and they did it at week 3, like literally 3 weeks to the night of the murders. Is this unusual as they go to what they call the analytics phase of the case? Is it early? Is it late? Just give me a feel for when do you start pulling back?
I don't think it's unusual. I mean, at this point in time, they have fielded over, I think the last numbers I saw were over 5,000 clues, tips, either from email or from phone calls or online stuff. And then they've got the evidence, the collection that went on at the beginning of this thing, and they marshaled the forces that they had. I mean, the Moscow Police Department's only got 36 commissioned personnel and support staff, And so as what you just alluded to, they have an entire community that they have to continue to police. And so this utilization of patrol officers at the beginning, they're using them to canvass, they're using them to collect evidence, they're using them to put that evidence in whatever property room they have there for analysis later. They're answering phone calls, they're fielding these tips. There's a lot of things that they're utilizing those locals to do, and that's why, thankfully, at the very beginning of this thing, the state and the FBI stepped in because they've got the resources that the Moscow Police Department just doesn't have.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.